Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we'll be looking at Chatterbox, a branching path dialogue solution for GameMaker that comes with a visual editor attached. It's super easy to install, even easier to learn, and honestly, it's the most fun I've had doing game dev in a while, so I can't wait to show it to you. And there's a lot to cover in this video, because we'll be making the entire game in Chatterscript, Chatterbox's underlying language. We'll learn how to initialize variables in a separate node, how to connect branching paths from start to end, how to import Chatterbox into GameMaker and, get it to run text, and we'll finish it off with some animations in GameMaker to show how easy it is to make an entire game in Chatterbox, sort of. So to start, really quickly, if you're into game dev projects done fast, please consider giving this a like and sub, it really helps grow the channel. Okay, with all of that out of the way, this is how to make an entire game with Chatterbox. Almost. Hello out there and welcome back. Today we'll be looking at Chatterbox by Juju Adams. Chatterbox is a branching path dialogue solution for GameMaker. Here they call it a narrative design tool. It comes attached with it a visual editor, and I had more fun making this than I've had doing game dev in a while. So I'll be showing you how to download Chatterbox, how to install it in GameMaker, how to write out a branching dialogue path and then export it, and then build a full game using it in GameMaker. Now, it does say somewhere in this Chatterbox documentation that a full game can be made in Chatterbox, and we will probably be getting as close to that as possible. We'll be setting up variables that we use to handle animation, fade-in effects, things like that, also some text effects. And we'll just be using GameMaker as sort of the wrapper that holds all of this and displays it. I will not be running a timer with this one. If you look at my other content, I do run a timer and show you how long it takes to actually build things out. But for this one, I will be copying and pasting some from my notes, so I just didn't think it was fair to run a timer. But I do want to try to streamline this a little bit, just for people that might be new to my channel. So yeah, I think with all of that out of the way, we can start getting into Chatterbox. To load this page, I came in here to www.jujuadams.com/chatterbox, and it will give you a page with all of the documentation you'll need. I learned everything from this because this is like the main source of information, and we'll be using a number of functions. Not all of them, obviously, because it's kind of hard to do in one game. It's a lot of use cases, but with this, you'll have all of the tools you need to make a game. If you ever need to know where I got the information from or things like that, you can always come in here. This is where I got the Chatterscript, this language that we'll be using. Things like, how to set variables and things like that came from here. Other than that, I think, where is it? Somewhere actions and functions. No, that's not it. Okay, well, somewhere in here is also where I got the functions from inside GameMaker. So just so you know, just so you have in your head, if you ever want to double check anything or want to build out from functionality, this is how you do it. And if you're watching this, you've probably already been on this page, so whatever. From here, from the main page, we will be downloading this YYMPS, and that gives us a package that we can just upload straight into GameMaker. Could not be more simple. And there's also a visual editor that you can download, although for this thing that we're doing now, I will be using the web-based editor, and that looks like this. So I think we're ready. I'm going to just explain how some of this works really quickly with a final version, and then we'll go through and make this ourselves. But for now, we'll see here all of these little post-it note type things. These are nodes, right? And these connect to other nodes using this Chatterscript language. And the statement or the action, this action here, jump, is what causes it to go to another node. So when I did that, when I put in jump, that's what created this arrow here. You'll notice start and clean don't have arrows attached to them. And that's because we use them to do things like setting up variables or, resetting, cleaning up those variables. And we're going to initialize that as we would in any other game. And we don't necessarily need to connect that to the rest. And I'm going to show you again how we're going to start with day 1 begin, day 2 begin. These will be the first nodes we visit. And then from there, we're going to continue down the entire line until we reach a stop statement. So again, we have set. We're setting our variables here, but they're not beginning our journey, our branching dialogue, right? That starts here or here, day 1 or day 2 begin. And I should explain this out now. So there is an order of operations to Chatterbox, to Chatterscript. So I just want to explain that really quickly. In Chatterscript, you will have a we'll call this a dialogue text, right? This doesn't necessarily need this colon right here. You can write them like this. Although I do like that it changes a color and shows you the name when you use the colon. And we'll be using this colon to do some stuff in GameMaker later on. We'll be splitting the string and kind of doing some functionality based on that. So I will leave it in for now. So for every dialogue text, there will be options underneath. These options don't have to be indented. They could follow one right underneath the other like that. When you have multiple, let's see, let's pull one up. So I think this would be a really good example. So we have our statements up top. Then we have dialogue text here. Under dialogue text, we have our options, right? So if the user clicks this option, it will run everything below it. And same thing here, 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 and here. Now, again, I don't know if this is the order of operations that Chatterbox, Juju Adams and all of that had set up, but this is what I found to be most successful in testing, so this is the way I will describe it. We have dialogue text followed by an option, and then we restart, right? Then we do the top level statements again, and when we're done, whenever we're done with an option or anything like that, we have to jump. If we don't jump or don't stop at an option or have more text that goes on, it will error, right? It's going to try to search for that as it would any struct. And when it searches for that information and it comes up that it doesn't have anything there, it will error in GameMaker. So again, we will start, and I'm just going to explain this out really quickly because we're going to start typing it out ourselves. We have our top statements or actions. We have an if statement at the top. This leads to a dialogue text. The dialogue text has options under it, and then we restart. Then it goes back to the top level statements, and then this would be a better example. So back to top level statements, and then we have another dialogue text, right? Under that dialogue text, we have more options. We have here this if option chosen. This is just directly related to this statement. It shows this is the option. This is something that the user could choose. And we have an action here, a statement that controls this option. I'll explain what exactly each of those statements mean, what all of this means as soon as we start writing it out. I just want to double check really quickly. I was explaining the indenting, but we don't necessarily have to, right? Here we have sort of a run-on sentence that's happening. So once we get to the first option, then it's like our character just keeps talking, right? That they're just spilling it all out. So I'm not going to indent each one of these like this because I think that's going to make it a little bit harder to read for me personally. So I just leave them all like this, right? Indented, so that I can just see down the line that this is kind of a run-on thing. So I think with all of the explanations out of the way, we're ready to start writing in Chatterscript. So I'm going to come up here and just click New File. Don't need to save any of that. Oh, do I have to enter in a new file name? Okay, we'll call this interrogation data 1b. Perfect. So this is the screen that you would first get. You'll notice we have the start right here, which we've already seen. Now, the way statements work in Chatterscript, they start and end with less than, equal than signs, two of them. And anytime you're changing a variable at all, we're going to write set. Now, there's a few different, I can't remember what they're called, these things, these like statement names, and you can find all of those here. Chatterscript. Okay, yeah, list of supported operators. Well, that's not right, but you could find it somewhere in here. Yeah, so the first thing we have is our pressure points, and this is going to be a variable that it either goes up or down depending on how much pressure you put on the person being interrogated. Here is our first statement, our first action that we're going to type in Chatterscript, and here we're initializing a variable, right? We've got this variable pressure points, we're initializing it with the $, and we're setting it to 10. This is going to be our gameplay element. Depending on the questions asked, you either raise or lower the pressure points, and when the pressure points reaches 20, then you've won the game, that sort of thing. So here we've set fidgeting, right? If you ask a question that makes the person being interrogated uncomfortable, then they will show an animation. They will start to fidget. And we're going to control that animation whether or not we want to turn that off based on the question. So this variable, we're just setting it to false. And we'll be hooking that up with an enum later. And we're actually, this is the idea behind the enum is enums default to integers. So eventually we'll be able to set up an enum that has 0 is regular, 1 is surprised, and 2 is angry. And we don't have to do any other sort of functionality besides setting that enum, the object to the enum listed in this variable. That might sound a little complicated, but I'll explain it more when we get to that point in GameMaker. And just some more basic stuff. We're setting the day here to 1. That's what's going to control, well, I don't have it here now, but going in between day 1 begin and day 2 begin that we saw earlier, we're just going to increase the day using an integer. And then on the back end in GameMaker, we're going to have an array and yeah, hook it up that way. In fact, should we set it to 0? Let's set it to 1 for now. We might go back and change it later. And these just control different functions within GameMaker that we'll set up. We can create functions within Chatterbox. It just did not fit my personal method, my personal workflow. So instead, we'll just be using variables. I think that's going to be easier in the long run. But this is all kind of use case stuff, right? So again, if your use case is different, you might want to go back to the documentation and figure out how to create your own variables. It listed variables for sound. I could see audio being really important for setting up your own functions, but we don't have sound in this, so... And yeah, we're just doing some cleanup, right? We're going to call this clean, and we're going to call both of these in GameMaker. This start is going to be called using an initializer object, and then we never hit it again. And this clean just happens in between rooms just to, make sure that reset room is false and the animation resets, that kind of thing. Whoops. Yeah, zooming in and out is a little bit of a pain. Okay, so let's put these right here for now. I'm going to right click, and that's going to drop me a new node. And so I'm going to call this one day 1 begin, and I'm going to change some of these colors around so I know anything that's very text heavy, that's dialogue based, will be blue. Anything that is just straight setting will be gray. And we'll have a black color in here too for a kind of a mix between these. Yeah, and while we're here, let's go ahead and make it day 2. And then, yeah, I think we're ready to start writing stuff out. So I will write out a few of these nodes. Now we'll see here, I separated this based on lines. Doing it like this, if you reach the end of a dialogue text and there are no options, then we will prompt the user to press continue, to press a button to continue it. Just so you know, anytime you don't end this with an option, it will put the Chatterbox into a waiting state. And yeah, the other reason we did it is because the dialogue, it went on for too long. It didn't fit the text box that we made. And we also have like a little bit of a text animation. So I think this ends up being the better method. And then here, we don't have to indent, but I will just to make it easier for myself. And we're done with this. This is all we need for here. And you'll notice I put jump Gretchen name, but I didn't make a node for it, right? What's cool is it makes one for me, and it automatically connects them. How nice is that? Now, while that is convenient, well, actually, let's... Oh, man, I hope I don't do that every time. While that is convenient... I'm not sure it's conducive for how people actually write these out. So I put this jump accusation here, and again, it made a new one, but you see it's starting to clutter. And so I don't really have good control about where these go when they're being placed automatically like this. So I think it's easier to start putting these in place myself, right? So this is pressure checkpoint 1, pressure checkpoint 1. This serves as just kind of a tutorial reminder. The point of the game is to put pressure on the person. So, you know, if you're not putting pressure on them by now, it's just kind of remember that's what you're supposed to be doing. We also have testimony, and I think testimony leads to a few. I think it leads to one called small talk, one called stolen goods, and one called the men. So I'm just going to draw those out here, change the colors, and yeah, we can now come back, and now that I have this out a little bit for where I know it's going to go, I'm going to come back and just write some more text. So Gretchen says, now remember the point is to get pressure points to 20, right? So we'll be increasing, decreasing the pressure points. Here when you say, hi Gretchen, nice to meet you, that makes her more comfortable, so it decreases the pressure points. Now, we use set every time that we want to change this variable. Oh, you know what? I wrote this wrong. There we go. We can see here it explains why, right? 2 simply means equals, but we really want to be doing minus equals. So instead of 2, we write minus equals. Super, super simple, right? So we set up, I guess this is the, we set up the action, call a variable, and then de-increment it by 1. And that's all that does. And so here, I wrote in here, continue. So we can put the Chatterbox into a waiting state to continue from there, or there might be options where you want to say like what the continuing action is or have the person choose it. So I just wanted to give an example of that. Okay, I'm just going to see if I can copy and paste the rest of this. Okay, so to save some time, I just copied and pasted the rest of it. And yeah, I'm just double checking to make sure. Yeah, we just want to make sure that there's always a dialogue text, always an option underneath. And see, yeah, we'll just put that there to make it a little bit cleaner. And yeah, okay, that looks good. And we'll notice all of that there. Every single option jumps to pressure checkpoint, right? But not before changing pressure points. So up here in pressure checkpoint 1, we'll start off by asking. So now we have an if-else statement. Might as well put a terminator in there. So we have an if-else statement, right? And it will run this if the pressure points is less than 10, or this if the pressure points is more. And I could include an option from here, but because the option isn't connected to this dialog text, it's going to make me press continue if I want to continue to that option. So instead, I'm just going to include the same option for both. Just like that. And yeah, we can do the same thing. We're both jumping to the same place after this. And there we go. It's just that easy. Okay, so let's move on to testimony. Testimony is the strongest example of everything we do here. So we're going to set fidgeting to false. We do these right up top, right? Now we could have done this in the pressure checkpoint, but we want these animations to show. Okay, so this is a function that's built into Chatterscript once, right? It's asking if testimony has been entered once, and it has because we're in there right now, right? This is the node testimony. We're saying if once testimony, which means that this will happen because we've entered it once. It will not happen in the future after that because it's been entered more than once. So these are connected dialog texts, right? Because it's dialog text without an option, I'm going to have to press continue. It's going to put Chatterbox into that waiting state. So we have an if statement. Because we have an if statement, we need the terminator at the end if. That's what lets this know that we're done. So the user's already been pressing continue a few times to get all of this out. They will have to press continue one more time to get out of the if statement. And then we'll get this. What else do you want to know? And we can just write this out like we've been doing. Now this right here, where is it? If option chosen. So this is another function which is going to check if this option has been chosen before. And if not, it will display it. If it has been chosen before, then it just goes away. Here we're doing another function. I'm running a local counter, which will run a counter in this node. And I just gave it a name of questions. We're going to check what local counter does is it increments every time it's been called. So every time one of these choices has been selected, local counter will increase and also the option will be taken away. Once all of them have been chosen, we'll have a secret option that only displays once these have all been chosen, and that moves us on to the next thing. Now here I have a jump to small talk, right? Which will put that here. What's important to know is that because we have this option chosen here, once we enter into this node, we'll never get back to it. And that's important for us because we have these pressure points, right? Certain dialog options either increase or decrease pressure points, and if we left them in, the user would be able to cheese the game, basically. And so it's important to, realize and think about the functionality going into your game, as that's going to decide how the nodes kind of connect to each other. Now, actually, really quickly, while we're here, I'm going to create another node, and this is going to be called jump back testimony. Now, in testimony, we use a lot of functions. There's a function in Chatterscript called jump back, but it doesn't work quite the way I want. So instead, I'm going to be using a node to control jump back behavior. And so that's just one of the options available to you, right? If things don't work exactly how you want, you can always change them. Now, the rest of this is going to follow the same logic. So again, I'm just going to copy and paste this up until a certain point. So let's see, let's just get the rest of the questions out here. So I just copied and pasted from my notes the other options, the other questions. They all contain the same if option chosen. We follow the exact same structure that we've been doing, or we should be. And then we reach a point where the user has asked all of these questions and it's time to move out of these options. And I should have shown really quickly, we have these jump back testimony, right? So in here, in jump back testimony, we're just going to set fidgeting to false and jump testimony. So I guess that's the only functionality I wanted to build in, is just a reset of fidgeting, and then we just jump back into testimony. Once we jump back into testimony, we start at the top again, so it will skip this section and go straight on to what else do you want to know. Yeah, and it actually looks like we set fidgeting to false twice here, so that's not even necessarily necessary, but it gives us an idea of different functionality. We have these nodes that are kind of islands that do the resetting because we're going to call them using GameMaker, but we could also have a node that does the resetting, right? That is connected to the rest and gives us that jump back functionality that we want. Okay, so here back in testimony, if all of the options have been chosen, we need to create a fourth option. So we're going to say if local counter questions greater than 3, do you think you know the men who broke into your house? And then we jump there. And there we go. Yeah, sorry, I just saw that I forgot to copy and paste one of these questions. So we have who were they? What was the other man? That must have been very hard for you. Yeah, all 4 questions. Okay, cool. Really quickly, I'm going to copy and paste small talk and stolen goods. They have the same things that we've been covering. Okay, well, I'm going to fix this and I'll be right back with that. Okay, so I just copied and pasted small talk and stolen goods, and we'll see that the only place they jump back to is testimony, which brings us back here, right? I think we're ready to start writing out the men, which will be the final node before we end the day. Looks like I'm fidgeting right now. So this is just another chance to add a little bit more pressure before the end of the day. Okay, yeah. There we go. We now have day 1 end. We're going to color this black, and let's go ahead and get out while we're at there a game over and game 1. Okay, perfect. Oh, whoops. I guess I accidentally changed the metadata, which we will not be using. Game 1 and game over. Okay, perfect. So yeah, we will end the day the same way we did the pressure checkpoint. And this is the important part, right? We need to set day plus equals 1. Set reset room to true. And then finally, this stop here, right? Once we hit that stop, we have functionality in GameMaker that's going to tell this to move on to the next thing, which in our case means we're going to fade out the room when we hit a stop because we're done talking and this is a text-based branching dialogue path game. So, but it doesn't have to be that. You know, you could have other functionality that starts maybe, you know, you pick up the actual game part and start slashing enemies or something like that. We could do that using the stop function too, but we want to make sure that all of these end with either a jump or when we're done a stop, and that's just the proper way to do Chatterscript, I think. Game over is easy. You have failed to gather, and yeah, we just set game over to true, and as always, we have to stop, right? And we will control using GameMaker, and by setting that variable to true, it's gonna trigger a room go to. We're gonna go to the next room, go to game over room. Oh, actually, I think we just restart. So I think, yeah, I think we're ready to move on to day 2. And I think for that, I'm just going to copy and paste a lot of the stuff because, again, we have already gone over most of this. So, yeah, really quickly. And there we go. That is the complete game that we have. We have day 2 begin, which is right on top of my face there. That goes to accusation, which goes to the pressure checkpoint 2. Pressure checkpoint 2 either leads straight to a game over or goes to a confession and then a game 1. And yeah, that's it. That's the entire functionality. That's the entire scripting, and it's all of the dialogue, all of the text for the entire game that we'll be making in GameMaker, all right here in front of you. I mean, it's so easy and actually really fun. Okay, so now that we're done with this, let's go ahead and show how to upload this entire thing into GameMaker. So the first thing is to come back into this Chatterscript here. Let's come back to the top, and we're going to download this YYMPS. And we're going to come in here to crochet, and we're going to export this file as a yarn file. And we're just going to leave that there. We're going to go ahead and open up GameMaker and select new game, blank game, give it a project name and click let's go. So the first thing is to come into here and click import local package. You'll see I already have it up right here, Chatterbox beta YYMPS. And that's it. That's all you have to do to load Chatterbox into your GameMaker project. Oh, well, okay. There's this first. We're going to click add all and import. And now we can see Chatterbox right here. It's so simple. The next thing we have to do is put this file that we made into our project. And we can do that by coming to help and clicking open project in Explorer. So that opens this up right here. I'm going to click into data files, and you'll see there's a Chatterbox license there. I'm going to pull up the file that we made, which I named interrogation data 1b, and I'm just going to .yarn, and I'm just going to drag that into data files. So interrogation data 1b.yarn will be picked up by this. Now I'm not sure, but I think I could probably just drag it in here. We don't have to do that. It's so easy the other way. Just help, open project in Explorer, and drag it into data files. That's pretty much it. There are some assets that we've made for this project. You can get these from Ko-Fi. You'll see the link in the description. That's my Ko-Fi. I upload all of these images. They're free for commercial or personal projects. If you wanted to make your own game using this, I wouldn't stop you. I'm just going to take all of these and drag them into sprites. There we go. When I named them in Ko-Fi, you'll notice like sprite mouth is called sprite underscore mouth underscore strip 4. That underscore strip 4 is what allows us, when we upload them straight into GameMaker, to put it into these different frames. So that's just something to keep in mind. I think for this, we're going to be messing around with the origin a bit. So let's come into sprite body. We're going to be setting the origin to 197 and 6. And this will just give us like a pivot point that we can put the head on as well. So coming into sprite head, I think it's, let's see, 141 by 209. Again, just, you know, a place where the base of the neck would be, where the neck would sit on top. Yeah, and I figured these out myself by kind of going through and just finding the point where I felt it looked the best. Yeah, and mouth too, we have, let's see, 26 by 9. Is that it? Sprite brow, sprite eyes, probably middle center. So we do need some fonts for this project. Let's get this. Font text is going to be Roboto Mono, size 18. And font title will be Roboto Mono, size 60. These come from Google Fonts. They are free for personal or commercial projects. Most of them are. You will have to check the license on that. Okay, so yeah, we have the sprites all in. We have our fonts. Yeah, I think we're ready to just start making some objects. So, you know what? Actually, okay, let's make a few of these and then go back. I'm trying to split this up, so if you wanted to skip seeing how we build the animation, you can. This part will be important though, so we're just going to build this for now. Let's go into our rooms, change the room size to 1200 by 800, and change the name to room start. We're then just going to duplicate this out a bit. Duplicate for what? Room. Oh, I wish I remembered. Room main. Duplicate. Now we're not going to have a night in here. There's not like a night portion of the game, but I included it just in case you wanted to build it out. You know, most good games kind of combine different core mechanics, and this would give you a really easy chance to do that. And yeah, I think in room start, we're just going to drop in our initializer object. In room main, we're going to drop in our controller main. And then night, drop in controller night. Okay. And yeah, we're going to make one object here. Object BG. And if I'm going to try to offer a still version of this image. If that's you, if you're doing that, if you don't actually care about the animations, oops, this is the create event. I'll tell you when you can duck out and come back. But you will probably need this object BG set to this. And actually, yeah, let's go ahead and finish making some sprites before, while I still have you here, before we get into the animation stuff. So this is sprite overlay black. This will be size 1200 by 800. Come in here to edit image. We're just gonna color that a black color. And then we also have let's say sprite text black, and this is size, let's see, 1000 by 250. There we go. And yeah, if you're using the background image, this is pretty much all you'll need. This object BG, just set that to the image. If you want, this is the overlay. If you are not doing the animation part, you do not have to make this. But the last thing you will have to make here is create object. Okay, so this overlay, we're just going to do depth equals 0 if room equals room start, image alpha equals 0.9, else image alpha equals 0. Okay, so the next part of this, we will be going over how enums can control animation and how we can hook that up to the variables we set up in Chatterbox. If you're not interested in that, I totally understand. Go ahead and skip to the next part in the timestamp where we show how to put Chatterbox dialogue into this game. You know what I'm saying. Yeah, if you are still here, let's get into it. So, as you know, I work in reverse of how I actually build these out. I call it the farmer and the Dell situation. So we're going to be building this body, and this body is going to have a bunch of enums attached to it so that we can make clean animation. And I will be copying and pasting some parts of this too, again, just for time. All of the information is available on GitHub. You can see that post too, or you can see that link in the description. So here we have the eyes, right? And let's go ahead and set the image speed to 0, the depth to 5, and then we have an enum, our first enum for this. Let me zoom in. Enum blink state. And this is just going to have a binary... Oh, wait, it's not actually. Okay, so we have a blink state. We have our enum, which sets up open, blinking, and closed. And then we set that to a variable called blink state. If you don't know how enums work really quickly, enums default to integers. So this enum blink state, open, blink, and closed, this means the same thing internally to GameMaker as just 0, 1, and 2. And we're going to use that based on the variables that we set up in Chatterscript, right? We had that face mood that equaled either 0, 1, or 2. Well, later on, we're going to build an enum that has those moods as those options in the enum. So eventually, we'll be able to set up an enum that has 0 is regular, 1 is surprised, and 2 is angry. And so it's just really, really easy to switch between them. And then we're going to do how we call. So this is switch, blink state, and we say case, blink state dot, what's the first one we had? Open, I think. And then we call a break. Oh, sorry, we need a colon there, right? But again, like, because of how it internally reads it, we could just do case 1, case 2. Whoops, I need to do these correctly. Case 1. Break, case 2, break. And this literally means the exact same thing in GameMaker, right? 0, 1, 2, case 0, 1, 2. But it's not readable. And so we want it to be readable. And so we'll also say blink state dot closed. I think this one's blinking. And blink state dot closed, right? And if you've ever used GameMaker before, you'll recognize all of this. It's all very, very simple. If blink frame greater than 0, blink frame minus equals 0.2, else blink frame equals 0. So that's just saying that if the eyes are in a state of being closed, open them, right? And yeah, when the timer runs out, then we want the blink to happen, right? And yeah, so okay, hold on, give me a second. If the first two are going to be no, else if, oh, no. So yes, we have the first one moves it up, right? If blink frame is less than 0.2, blink frame plus equals 0.2, else then has blinked equals true, right? And then we just run the opposite of that. Else if has blinked and blink frame greater than 0. Else if has blinked and blink frame is greater than 0, then blink frame minus equals 0.2. And then we just want to make sure else if has blinked and we reset that timer, right? And then yeah, this closed is just a kind of the opposite of open, right? Image index equals seal. And that seal just finds the ceiling. When we're doing animation, it means that it's going to hold the last frame of the animation for just a little bit longer. If we did floor, it would make the animation start just a little bit slower. We haven't set this up yet, right? We're going to do this in the initializer object, and we're going to do this when we bring in the people who don't want to do the animation back. But I will set this up now. If global.pressure points greater than or equal to 20, blink state equals blink state dot closed. And yeah, so once the pressure points, once it hits a certain point, once you're about to win the game, then the eyes shut. So easy. See, oh, we don't have an object mouth. Okay. Oh yeah, because I'm doing these one at a time. So object mouth. And so with this one, this follows the exact same logic as what we created. We have image speed equals 0, depth equals 2. Why not? For the mouth state, we have closed and flapping. Now, this is important, right? There's only 2 here. So not only do enums default to 0 and 1 in GameMaker, but so do Booleans, right? So do true-false statements. So this would be 0 and this would be 1 in a true-false statement. So all I have to do is say, you know, mouth state equals mouth moving, that sort of thing. Yeah, we have to set up and we have kind of the same things going on here. And then, yeah, for this step event, this follows the exact same logic as we did for the eyes. So I'm just going to copy and paste this, I think, for everyone's benefit. Yeah, same thing, right? Is closing, is opening, whatever. Yeah. And then later on, we're going to set up another global, which again, we haven't yet. But we're just going to say mouth state equals global.isTalking. If isTalking is true, then lips will be flapping. If not, they'll be closed. It's so simple. And then, yeah. we have object head and, whoops. Let's see, sprite head, delete out this sprite 9 mistake there. So yeah, we have this object head, and yeah, I'm just going to copy and paste this whole create event. It's basically the same thing. The only difference is here we have this in room start. We're going to be making like a special little screen by changing image blend equals C black. We'll just drop the entire color and all of the head and just make it black, and you can see the outline of it. So we'll be using that to just kind of change up the start menu a little bit. And because if everything's black, you can't see anything on the face, then we don't want to make these things either, right? So we're not going to initialize these, create the instance for them, unless we're not in the room start and everything's not black. So yeah, I mean, and just simple stuff, right? We're creating the left brow, the right brow, reversing, or no, setting the image index of the right brow to 2, which puts it, or the frame to 2, the image index to 1, that puts it in the second, the other eyebrow, eyes, mouth, that sort of thing. And then, yeah, same thing here. So we have this enum here, right? This enum face state. And remember we made the face mood variable back in Chatterscript. So this shows us regular equals 0, surprised equals 1, angry equals 2, just like we had set up there. And face state equals face state regular. Oh, whoops, I mean, where is that? Here, we do the same thing, right? Face state equals global.face mood. And we'll be setting all of those up in a second. Other than that, this is all very straightforward. I think the only thing, besides the fact that I mix both like hard coding and also having variables that give the same information, but besides that, the only thing is this BIA, I think, and that's controlling the image angle of the eyebrows so they, move up and down, get mad, get surprised. And yeah, we're just increasing or decreasing the BIA and setting the right brow to the negative of that, right? So that they move opposite of each other. Yeah, and that's pretty much it for the head. I think the last thing we have for this is the body. So we're going to create object body, set to sprite body. And same thing with the face. We've got an image angle, and it's changing depending on the direction that the body is facing when they are fidgeting. And just need to copy this. This is a long one. Okay. And just going through and checking all of this, we are setting right up top that the object head, it will move a little bit depending on, the different state that they're in. Or if not, we just want to lock them together, right? So x equals x, y equals y. I think we do the same thing with head. The very first thing we do in our step event is tell it, the left brow will always be this distance from the head. The right brow will always be this distance, the eyes, etc. And we just set that at the beginning of our step statement because that hopefully keeps things just a little bit more together. Okay, here we go. I think we're ready to bring back in the people that left while we did the animation stuff. So let's come back to our object initializer, which we made before. And we're ready to start writing stuff out in here, start initializing the game. So we're going to set up pressure points the same way we did before by making them equal 10. There is a way to do this using a variable set and get, which we'll explore a little bit of in this project, but I felt it was just better to hard code that up front since it's so important to the key gameplay. And we're going to be creating a global file, which is a string that references the file we created, which is interrogation data1b.yarn. And this is how we load our Chatterbox. Chatterbox load from file. Put in our file name there. Chatterbox. We set the entire Chatterbox to a variable, and we use that variable to call it to do things throughout the game. So we want to create that Chatterbox. We want to jump to start. right? That was the room where we initialized all of our variables. And then we just want to stop it. Like, we're done with this part, so we just move on, right? And this right here, I mean, we've just loaded in the entire node for start. Since that node isn't connected to anything, that's all it's going to do. But that's fine. We also have some globals that we made, and these are tied to the variables we made in Chatterscript. And then we're just going to create everything that we need. Let's see. And yeah, just a quick step event for this. If keyboard check released vk any key room go to room main, and then just a little draw so that we have some text on there. We're going to find the string width so that we can center it. String width for interrogation, and then draw text to center it. We're going to do room width minus SW divided by 2. And then just, 200 for the height of it. Yeah, we can just copy and paste this. Change them both to start game, and just move this down to 400. And yeah, now we have, actually, really quickly, I'm going to come into game options, Windows, graphics, and turn on allow window resize. And so, yeah, there we go. We load it up and we've got our blackout screen with, is that the way you spell interrogation? Why does that look wrong? Gonna have to double check that. Is it? Whatever. Okay. So yeah, when we click start, nothing happens because we haven't loaded in the rest of our data yet, but it's nice to know that it's working at this point. So we're ready to come into our object controller main. And yeah, let's just draw out really quickly. And yeah, more variables based on the variables in Chatterscript, but these are going to be local, so we're not going to make them globals. This is our controller main object, so we can use this to do the same thing we did in that clean node. And then yeah, here too, we just need to create, going to copy and paste from the initializer object, and we're dropping everything but the overlay black. We're going to take that out because we'll be making that using our enum. And yeah, that's it for our main. We can move on to the step. So the first thing, we don't have this here. I'm going to come in and make an object text just so this doesn't error. We're going to make that object text there, set the sprite to that sprite text, delete out this sprite 9. And yeah, that's just to make sure this doesn't error. Right up top, we're going to be making another Chatterbox for this, right? So first we're going to be asking if it exists. Then global.pressurepoints equals Chatterbox let me zoom in. Chatterbox variable get. And then we put a string, and the string is whatever we called our variable in Chatterbox. Chatterscript. And we have a lot of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, and it would help if I used the correct name of the variable that we built. So we have global.fidgeting. And here, this is just reset room, game over, game 1, and I forgot to put this one up top, global.face mood, and then yeah, whatever these were, right? This was fidgeting, this was reset room, this was game over, game 1, and what do we call this? Face mood? And then, yeah. This is our GameMaker functionality related to those variables, right? So this is just a little bit annoying of a thing I found, is that if you don't fully delete out that object and stop the Chatterbox, it can continue into the next Chatterbox you set up. Even if you do the stop and all of that, this was just in testing the most consistent way to get results. I wouldn't have put it in here if it didn't work, so. Sometimes I like to include a null. It does a nice thing, like lining up counters and stuff, but for this one, I mainly just used it for testing, I think. Yeah, just a simple fade in, right? And I'm actually going to copy and paste the fade out, because it's the same thing, but in reverse. So yeah, we fade in, we fade out, we create the object overlay, we either, set its alpha to 1 and decrement it, or, whoa, why do these have the same thing? Hold on. Fade in means that it starts black, right? And then you fade. So then fade out. Yeah, okay, I'm going to change this real quick because I think I did this backwards. So you fade in, it starts at 1. If it's greater than 0, it fades out. Otherwise, it would start at 0. And if it's less than 1, then we fade in. Okay. Sorry, I just had to change that from my notes really quickly. I think that's the way that should work. And then, yeah, our last one here. Oh, this is it. Okay, so we have this fade out, right? When the fade out happens, once right? When you fade out, you start. Fade out would mean that it starts and then it gets, yeah, okay, whatever. So yeah, once it has achieved maximum darkness, once it's hit 1 at the image alpha, then if game 1, go to room game 1, else if game over, go to room start, else go to room night, right? Just super simple, all based on the variables we set up. And then the last one we have is if instance exists. Oh, whoops, we're saying if no instance exists, object text, then we want to make it, right? Instance create layer 100, 350, instances, object text. Okay, so really quickly before we move on to object text, let's go ahead and make this object controller night. So this is just going to have the Chatterbox. In fact, let's just copy and paste this from object initializer, this right here. We just need that. We're going to take it to object controller night, paste it here, and yeah, we're going to grab this clean, right? It's going to clean in between as it goes to night, and then it's going to jump back, room, go to room main. And yeah, I'm going to copy this and just hold it while we come into object text, make the create event. And yeah, as always, just set a few things. And then here, we're going to load that same file, except, okay, so before we get here, right, we have, after this, after we've loaded the Chatterbox, then we need to check Chatterbox variable get day. Now we're going to be using an array for this, so let's actually build that out first. The day nodes, right, the different days. We have day 1 begin and day 2 begin, right? That's all we've built so far. We could have day 3, day 4, all of that kind of stuff. Because arrays start at 0, we want to take whatever this day is and just subtract 1 from it. Yeah, so now we can say Chatterbox jump to day nodes day, and if day is set to 1, then it'll make it 0, and then it sets it to day 1 begin. And then, yeah, we have a lot of just, so I'm sure there are a lot of methods for like typing out text that types itself. I probably don't use a clean method because it comes from my early days in GameMaker. But I like it a lot. It's just really easy. We just take the string and, cut it to a certain point and then just add to it based on the string length of whatever. So we have like a dialogue string here and a current string, and we're just going to set the current string to whatever the dialogue string is, like +1 over a step event. And yeah, we're just going to record like that, right? The string length for dialogue string length for current string, and string length for label string. So yeah, we just Chatterbox is stopped. Chatterbox, that same thing we loaded, right? So this is telling us, right, whenever we put that stop, that the stop statement action in Chatterscript, I want you to start the fade out for this. Just a fade in effect for the options, that the options shouldn't finish until you're done typing out the dialogue, right? And you shouldn't be able to move on. You shouldn't be able to select a choice if the dialogue hasn't finished. And this is just saying this is the continue thing, right? This if keyboard check released VK space while Chatterbox is waiting, that will serve as a continue. Yeah, because we have to put in Chatterbox continue. Whoops, there we go. This is our else. So if the typing's done, right? So this comes straight from the documentation, this specific piece of code. I've changed around a good amount of this, but it's all adapted from their code. So when you take that, I have 1, 2, 3 open closed. Okay. 0, 1, 2, 3, and this is the functionality for the options, right? 1, 2, 3, or 4 are connected to the 4 possible options. And right here, so this, right, we're saying index equals undefined. If one of these has been selected, index equals one of these and is no longer undefined. And if that's true, we're going to reset everything. And yeah, our choice, whatever we chose, is what the index is set to. Easy, easy, easy. Okay, I'm actually going to copy and paste from this point the entire thing. I need to see if I... Well, no, I don't want to do that either. Let's try from here. Just want to see if I... Oh, okay, I did nest everything correctly. Okay, I just wanted to make sure this else wasn't nested somewhere else, but now that looks to be correct. Where do we stop? Right here. So if Chatterbox is stopped, oh boy, this is... Okay, so we're setting our dialogue string to the content that we got. The string length is set to the dialogue string, the string R. Now this is where it gets a little fancy, right? We're going to take the string, we're going to split it into an array based on the colon. Now anything that's in that first section, anything before the colon, that's going to be our name, right? So we're just going to, that label string just gets printed straight out. And then we set the length of our variable for string length to the label string. Yeah, I'm gonna copy and paste this too. This is my method for typing out text. So here we are. If the current string length is less than the label string length, which means that, we haven't put that in yet, then we want to set typing as true. We want to set the current string to the label string. That will make the name appear there. And then CSL LSL plus 1, because somewhere along this string array we ended up losing a single character, so we need to make sure we add that back in. Same thing here. So if the current string is less than the DSL plus 1, the dialogue string length, then okay, so if it's less and the keyboard is pressed, right? If the space bar is pressed, then just set it to the whole thing. That's our fast forward function. That if the text is being typed out and the person wants to get it done right away, they can press space, and the entire dialogue string, the current string, will be set to the dialogue string. They'll receive all of that text at once. Otherwise, for every frame, the current string plus equals the string character at the length of the character string. I don't have a better way of explaining that. It's taking the character at the position in the dialogue string that is as long as the current string, and then adding it and then incrementing. Yeah, I mean, you can probably understand most of that. If not, feel free to hit me up in Discord and I'll explain all this out for you. But yeah, I think the last thing we have, and oh boy. So we've got to draw it, right? So I did adapt this a little bit from the version in the Chatterscript documentation, but not much. We did change around some stuff because we have that typing. Then we moved, some variables. So here we're going to do a draw text ext. Increasing the y so that we can, why isn't this, there we go. Then we want to create a new alpha, or have, everything that follows this fall into that alpha. So if Chatterbox is in a waiting state, then we want to draw the text continue. And I'm actually going to put these in parentheses inside of that because I think that just looks cleaner from a user perspective. Yeah, so if it's not waiting, and yeah, we want to repeat for each of the options. Yeah, var string equals. So yeah, this is, I think they call it interpolating on Chatterbox. I always learned it was like concatenating. But yeah, we have a string here, right? And then to that string, we're putting a number 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a parenthesis sign, and then printing the string itself. And so that just shows the options 1, 2, 3, 4. That's all that means. I have a mistake somewhere in here. I'm going to have to find that in a second. Okay, with all that, I think we're ready for testing, finally. So let's see, where... Oh, whoops, sorry. Let's do it that way, yeah. Okay, so with that little error there, let's go ahead and open it up. I guess I forgot something here. Options delay, just a small typo. And yeah, it's all good. This is really high. This is much higher than I was expecting. So I think, where do we, in object controller main, let's come back and just double check where we create this. Yeah, that's not 350, is it? Oh, okay. Sorry. That's supposed to be 530. 530. Okay. So yeah, just a small little syntax or spelling errors. Other than that, there we go. And yeah, it types it out. We can press continue. Let's start with some formalities. Look at that. Okay. And yeah, the eyebrows move. Let's get to press continue, continue. It's not popping up right there, so let's. Okay, it does look like there are a few errors, so let's go through and just check them one by one. So right now it looks like when I press space, it's no longer typing out the text, right? And there's an undefined there, so I'm just gonna try this again. So I press space there, and it just automatically, as soon as I press space, wants to go to the next thing, right? Okay, so you know what's happening, I'm pretty sure, is that both of these things are being triggered at the same time. So we can check that by going and just changing this to another. Where do we have? Here, let's try VK shift and see if that takes care of the problem. And if it does, I mean, that's just a functionality thing. Yeah, see, it's because the spacebar is having two different functions on it. Yeah, this time if we press shift, it works just fine. So I think we're going to leave that there for now. Yeah, see, all typing out, the mouth is moving, the eyes are moving. I think really quickly there's just one other bug. Let's go back and see that. So this one's a little bit deeper. This is related to, we had a mistake in the Chatterscript. So here, when we start with some formalities, if I say, hi Gretchen, nice to meet you, it goes to undefined, right? And that's a mistake. So if we come back, we can see with our, where is it? We can come back and see here. There's a problem with this continue going off after hi Gretchen, nice to meet you, right? And I think, but I'm not sure, I think the reason is because there's no text here, that this should say, Gretchen, nice to meet you too. Right? And it's just because we're not following the logic that we had set up earlier. We have another option, but with no dialogue text to go with it. So I think that simple change should fix it. We're going to export the yarn file and then just run it all again. So yeah, we have to come into GameMaker. I'm going to open up the folder, which I already have here, this data files, and drag in. Let's see, this interrogation data 1B1, and I'm just going to rename this interrogation data C, and then come back here into my initializer object and just change this to interrogation C. And it's just that easy. We did have to drag it in and all of that, but I mean, how easy is that for testing, right? You're using two different systems and combining them. So let's start with some formalities. Hi, Gretchen. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too. Perfect. Let's see. We didn't properly go to the room when we lost. There seemed to have been an issue. So we're just going to go back to our Chatterscript and see what's causing that. So here, and this is not surprising since we have all of this set up. If local counter questions is greater than 3, are we setting local counter questions happens 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So all of that should be correct. I might have just indented this incorrectly. Yeah, let's save it and see. Okay, so we see here going back. What else do you want to know? Now we get that final option. So yeah, I guess we just don't indent that if statement. And there you go. Now we can say, do you think you know the men who broke into the house? We get the fidget back. Let's talk about something else. I'm tired. I've had a long night. Can we continue this tomorrow? And then we go on to the next day. We can begin. And just really quickly, I just want to... This is bugging me. So object text, where we draw the text out. I just want like a space there. Yeah, I think with that, we're ready to try winning the game. Let's start with some formalities. Bomber, I feel like I've heard that before. In my experience, money creates more problems. She starts fidgeting. Her eyes, she looks kind of... There we go. Now she's mad. Starts fidgeting some more. Let's see. And... yeah, let's see. There was $50,000 in cash. And yeah. Now we get that final the men question. Continue asking. I'm tired. I've had a long night. Can we continue this tomorrow? Yes, of course. And there we go. Walk back into the interrogation room. She's already closing her eyes because she's close to breaking. I can say, I think you did it. I think you staged the robbery or know who broke in. There we go. We have our confession. And we have our final with that confession. Gretchen will spend some time behind bars. And we're done. Okay, cool. So yeah, I think that should give you everything you need to build your own game using Chatterbox and Chatterscript. And again, you're free to use any of the assets or anything in this video, the code and stuff, for free. I don't care. The one thing I ask though, if you do make a game using these assets, please send it to me. I want to play it. That's all. I would love to play that game. You're probably going to do a lot better of a job, with dialogue and making the game kind of more fun than I did, because I was just doing this as a showcase kind of thing. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with this. I just thought this Chatterscript was so fun to set up and just play around with until I got it where I wanted it. So I hope this gives you enough information with the jumps and the variables and how they connect to GameMaker and all that. If you have any questions or you want help building this out, I will definitely just pop into my Discord and I will help you with whatever you want. Within reason, I don't know everything, but yeah, if you even want to continue working on stuff that's not in this video and want more help, with Chatterscript documentation, it's written out pretty well, but if you ever want help, more than welcome. Pop into Discord, say hi. Other than that, yeah, I don't think there's too much else to talk about here. Just again, I had a lot of fun making this. I hope you have fun too. And bye. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, please consider giving it a like and sub. And if you need any help, you can reach out through Discord and we'll try to figure it out together. And I just wanted to give a huge thank you to my Ko-Fi members. Your support keeps this channel going in more ways than one, including giving me the idea for this video. So if you're interested in finding out how your idea can become one of these videos, you can do that on Ko-Fi. And as always, thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one.